Chosen one, your sexual energy does not shout, does not wave, does not flood the room in performance. It arrives quietly, like the first wind before a storm, and yet it reshapes the emotional weather of every space you walk into. It speaks not in noise or noise-seeking, but in resonance, an invisible command that awakens awareness in the feminine soul before a word is ever spoken. You are not the echo of every other man. You are not a replication of patterns. You are the origin from which the signal comes, and the silence you carry is louder than a crowd. The feminine does not find you because you marketed yourself loudly, but because something in her body, in her very bones, remembers your signal before her mind can translate it. You see, chosen one, your calm is not absence of intensity, it is the highest form of it. Controlled, refined, tempered. It is fire shaped into form, heat that does not lash but illuminates. In your presence, she does not feel lesser. She feels seen, not judged, not rearranged, just seen in the raw, and it undoes her. The chaos of her day begins to untangle itself without effort. The overthinking slows, not because you offer her instruction, but because your gaze quiets the noise inside her. You do not ask her to calm down. You do not need to. The moment she feels you, her nervous system recognizes something ancient. This one knows the way back to center. There are men who try to lead women through pressure, through assertion, through dominance. But you, chosen one, are not one of them. You lead her through invitation, through posture, through frequency. When you walk into her orbit, the chaos within her doesn't feel the need to fight or flare. It feels safe enough to soften. You become her sanctuary, not through protection alone, but through energetic clarity. She can rage, she can weep, she can laugh or crumble, but your center never flinches. And because it does not flinch, she can trust it. This is why feminine women know you are the voice of reason, not because you talk over them, but because you see past their surface. Your sexual energy does not chase their body, it reads their soul. And what it reflects is not lust, but understanding. She feels this like a balm, a resonance that goes deeper than conversation. She doesn't have to ask you, "What should I do?" She simply has to be near you, and her knowing begins to return. You do not give her answers. You remind her that she already had them, buried beneath the debris of 1,000 false desires. And this is what burns, chosen one, not her skin, but her shame, her masks, her disorientation. You burn them away without force, without firewood, without flame. You burn them with presence, and when she stands before you unarmored, uncloaked, unfinished, you do not move. You stay. You breathe. You hold your frame like a sacred place she didn't know she needed. So now when she sees you, she doesn't just see a man. She sees her own clarity reflected. She sees the truth of who she is when she's not performing. And the deeper her trust grows, the more her emotions become transparent. Not because she's weaker, but because you are strong enough to carry the full range of her expression. You do not shrink from her shadows. You witness them. You do not fight her waves. You anchor her. And in doing so, chosen one, you become the voice she never heard growing up. The one who said not be quiet, but I'm listening. This is what your sexual energy does. Not dominate, not extract. It restores clarity. It restores the sacred. And when she finally finds herself in your presence, she knows, even if she can't explain it, that she is standing in front of the one man who will not distort her. Because you do not bend, you reflect, and in your reflection all her illusions begin to fall away. That is your power, chosen one. Not to impress her, but to awaken her to her own truth without speaking a word. Chosen one, the world has taught her to run, faster, louder, shinier. It has filled her head with strategies and her chest with anxiety. She is constantly scanning for signs of safety in a world that does not hold her gently. And then she meets you. Not a man shouting promises, not a man selling security, but a man who simply does not move. You are not frozen. You are rooted. You do not rush to solve her storms. And yet, when she stands before you, they begin to dissolve on their own. Because your stillness is not passive, it is sovereign. It tells her, without words, I do not need you to be fixed, to be held. And that is when she begins to fall. Not in weakness, but in relief. You become the eye of the hurricane that swirls within her. Not because you stopped the winds, but because you did not become them. She doubts herself not because she is fragile, but because she has been made to feel disconnected. She has forgotten how to hear her own voice under the noise. But then your energy arrives, clear, unreactive, grounded, and it calls her home. She does not understand how or why, but she feels her questions growing quieter, her breath growing deeper. Not because you've given her instruction, but because you've given her presence. And presence, chosen one, is more powerful than instruction could ever be. Your sexual energy is not frantic, it is firm. It is the kind of desire that waits, not because it is unsure, but because it is unchallenged. You are not chasing her approval, and because of that, your gaze becomes pure reflection. She cannot lie to herself in your presence. Not because you accuse her, but because your stillness unmasks everything false. She can laugh, scream, cry, question, and none of it will make you flinch. That is why she trusts you. That is why she calls you the voice of reason. Because you do not answer her, you remind her. And reminders are what the soul is truly longing for. She may test you, not out of cruelty, but because she's never seen a man not flinch before. She needs to know if what she feels is real. And you, chosen one, will not resist her. You will not chase her validation. You will simply remain where truth is, because you are not trying to be her center. You already are your own. And in that gravity, her chaos begins to orbit instead of explode. That is the miracle. Not that she changes for you, but that she becomes herself in your presence. In a world of reaction, you are response. In a world of performance, you are stillness. In a world of taking, you are witnessing. And this is why she leans toward you. Not for comfort, not for thrill, but for clarity. You are not the man who tells her what to feel. You are the man whose energy makes it impossible for her to lie to herself anymore. And so, without effort, without pressure, without seduction, you become the most magnetic force in her world. The voice that doesn't interrupt her chaos, but transcends it. The voice of reason, not because you speak louder, but because you stand deeper. And once she feels that, she knows. She may walk away, she may wander, but she will never again forget how her truth sounded in your silence. That, chosen one, is the gift only the stillest men can give, and only the truly sexually aligned men can carry. Chosen one, the feminine is a sacred storm. She carries tides of emotion, currents of memory, winds of intuition, and thunder that crashes with longing. And yet, when she meets you, something unprecedented happens. She no longer needs to control it. Your sexual energy is not intimidated by her power. It does not try to calm her down like the world has done. You do not flinch when she rises in waves or recoils into shadow. You stand, not as a wall, but as a container, wide enough to hold the entire ocean of her expression without spilling a drop. You are not afraid of her chaos because, chosen one, you have met your own. You do not fear her fire because you've walked through your own infernos and emerged as steel. That is why your masculine energy is not rejection of her emotion. It is a structure that respects it. You do not tell her to suppress. You invite her to be full. And in that fullness, she doesn't explode. She expands. She expands into the softest, most divine version of herself because you never made her feel too much. Other men try to tame the storm. You listen to its music. Other men argue. You observe. You do not fix her. You reflect her. You do not silence her. You let her hear her voice through the resonance of your calm. Your stillness is not the absence of passion. It is the highest discipline of it. Your sexual energy is refined, sculpted through self-mastery, not impulsive or grasping. It holds weight. And that weight becomes gravity in her world. A gravity that steadies her when she is unraveling in uncertainty. This is what makes her trust you beyond logic. Even if her mouth resists you, her soul leans in. Even if her mind questions you, her body softens near you. You are not playing a role. You are the role. You embody the man who does not flinch in the face of feminine fire. Not because you are cold, but because you are tempered. And because of that, she can finally fall apart without fear of judgment. Your energy tells her, I will not run when you feel deeply. It says, I can hold your sacred rage, your ecstatic joy, your tears at 3 a.m. And she believes you. Not because of your words, but because your presence remains unchanged in the face of her shifting emotions. You hold your ground, not in stubbornness, but in devotion. And that ground becomes her foundation. When her world feels like it's falling apart, your breath is the first thing that returns her to center. You are not overwhelmed by her magnitude, chosen one, because you are not trying to control it. You are there to contain it in reverence. The storm dances more wildly when it trusts the sky will not abandon it. And she dances more vulnerably with you because you never ask her to be less. This is the secret few men ever learn. The feminine will reveal her most sacred truths only to the man who can hold the storm without shaking. This is why, chosen one, you are the voice of reason. Not because you dismiss her waves, but because you do not become them. You let them crash, you let them rise, and then you stand in the foam, unshaken, arms open, ready for the next swell. She doesn't worship you for your control. She reveres you because your presence makes her feel free enough to lose control and still feel safe. That is what the feminine craves: freedom inside structure, fire within sanctuary, chaos without punishment. You are all of these. You are not the storm, but you are the sanctified sky that receives it. And in that sacred union, she does not calm herself because she's told to. She calms because your energy has already restored her to clarity. Chosen one, there is a mystery that many overlook, a truth that speaks not through logic, but through sensation. The feminine feels before she understands. She reads energy before words. She walks into a room and immediately scans the frequency. And when she walks into your orbit, something ancient happens. Her body exhales. Her shoulders drop, her chest opens. The static in her spine begins to fade, even if her thoughts are still running wild. Her nervous system recognizes you before her intellect does. It does not ask for your name or credentials. It only asks one thing: is he safe in his power? And when the answer is yes, she softens. Your sexual energy, chosen one, is not loud. It does not announce itself with arrogance or adorn itself with decoration. It simply exists, deep and rooted, and that depth alone calms her breath. You do not try to take from her. You do not demand that she offers. Instead, you make space for her to arrive, not as a curated version of herself, but in her rawest, wildest, most authentic form. And because you never flinch, her body begins to trust. Her gut releases, her jaw unclenches, her skin begins to remember what safety feels like again. You are not manipulating her relaxation. You are not seducing it. You are creating a field where it is the only natural outcome. That is the essence of your masculine energy. It does not provoke submission, it invites surrender. Not through dominance, but through resonance. Not through demand, but through density of presence. You carry stillness that wraps around her like an old familiar song. She may not even understand why she feels better near you, but her body knows, her spirit knows. Her femininity melts in the presence of your sovereignty. You do not pull her down. You lift her upward without lifting a finger. You do not solve her pain. You see it. And in that seeing, she heals. Not because you fixed her, but because you stood in front of her as a man whose wholeness reminded her of her own. That is why her mind begins to slow down. That is why the racing thoughts fade. It is not your logic that healed her. It is your energetic permission to be held. Chosen one, your sexual energy is not carnal. It is sacred. It does not devour, it worships. It holds space for the full expression of her beauty and her shadows alike. And that is why her body trusts you before her words can keep up. She does not even need to speak, and yet you already hear her. You are not reading her like a puzzle. You are feeling her like poetry. You are not looking to change her mood. You are simply inviting her home. When she is near you, she doesn't feel small or contained. She feels amplified. She feels more herself, not less. And that is the paradox of your power. You do nothing that seeks her approval, and yet she gives it. You do not try to earn her trust, and yet it flows to you. Not because you asked for it, but because you never compromised your own essence. Your stillness says, I know who I am. And in response, her chaos says, then I don't need to run anymore. This is why she comes closer. This is why her mind begins to believe again in love, in safety, in being seen without performance. It is because, chosen one, you are not asking her to be anything else. And in a world that is constantly reshaping her, renaming her, and rerouting her, you are the only place where her soul is simply allowed to rest. Not in sleep, but in remembrance. You awaken her by standing still, and that stillness becomes the voice she listens to even after you leave the room. Not because you told her who she is, but because you never needed her to be anything else. That is why she returns. That is why she listens. That is why she trusts you with her vulnerability. Because even before she could explain it, Her body already knew. Chosen one, there is a force within you that does not compete, does not chase, and does not seek to impress. It simply is, and its existence rewrites the emotional grammar of every space it enters. It is not about how you look or even how you speak. It is about what you do not need. The feminine senses this before words are ever exchanged. She scans your posture, your silence, your stillness, and what she finds is not the emptiness of indifference, but the density of sufficiency. You are full but not bloated, grounded but not heavy, radiant without trying to shine. And in a galaxy of men who orbit her seeking permission, you are the center she never thought she'd find. The reason she reveres you, chosen one, is because you do not need her approval to feel powerful. You already are. You do not inflate in her presence, you remain. You do not abandon yourself to gain her attention. You are so fully in yourself that her gaze becomes inevitable. You walk into rooms not to be noticed, but because that is where your path leads. And yet, without effort, heads turn, not in awe of flamboyance, but in quiet recognition of power that is no longer at war with itself. This is why the feminine finds herself watching you longer than she meant to. It's not the shape of your body that stuns her. It's the shape of your sovereignty. You are not waiting for her cues. You are not scanning for cues at all. You are transmitting something she forgot existed. You are reminding her that a man can be whole without her flattery, and that alone makes her want to give it. You do not manipulate her into respect. You earn it with every breath you do not waste. And here's the paradox. When you need nothing from her, she gives you everything. Not because she is trying to buy your attention, but because your attention does not fracture her. You don't look at her like a conquest. You look at her like a mirror. And when she sees herself in your presence, she doesn't see flaw or failure. She sees depth. She sees potential. She sees a woman who is more herself near you than she is near any man who tried to win her. You, chosen one, are not playing games. You are not performing roles. You are the reality those roles were meant to imitate. You have no need to dominate because your gravity already draws respect. You do not posture because your energy speaks louder than your gestures ever could. And because of this, the feminine cannot look away, not in infatuation, but in recognition. Her soul recognizes a standard it forgot it once knew. And the more time she spends around you, the more her own chaos starts to orbit itself again. This is the unseen power of your sexual energy. Not in seduction, but in stability. Not in flashy declarations, but in the thunder of your calm. You are not the loudest man in the room. You are the man whose presence alters the conversation. The one they ask for input after everyone else has spoken. The one she leans toward in silence because she knows you are not guessing who you are. You've already made peace with yourself, and that peace changes everything around you. The feminine does not fall in love with your performance. She falls in love with the way her body relaxes in your presence, the way her thoughts stop attacking her, the way her laughter becomes real again. And all of that begins the moment she realizes, he doesn't want anything from me, except for me to be real. That, chosen one, is a gift few men can give. And it is why your name, even unspoken, lingers in her breath long after you leave the room. Chosen one, she has not always trusted her desire. The world has taught her to question it, to fear it, to censor it until it forgets its own language. She has been told that her longing is dangerous, that her attraction is foolish, that her body cannot be trusted to choose. And so she begins to silence herself, not just outwardly but inwardly. She doubts her own knowing. She edits her own dreams. She looks at men and wonders, is this real or just another fantasy I'll regret? Until she meets you, you don't speak to her fears, you speak beneath them. You do not seduce her doubt. You simply embody such clarity that her confusion begins to unravel. And suddenly, without asking permission, her desire returns. Not because you manipulated it, but because you never questioned it. Your energy does not guilt her for wanting. It does not shrink when she comes close. It does not punish her hunger with emotional games. You stand there, rooted, calm, open, and something in her finally exhales. She is safe to want again. This is not about approval. This is about resonance. Your sexual energy does not offer her the performance of passion. It offers her the foundation of honesty. You are not playing a character to impress her. You are embodying the man her soul already dreamed of before the world taught her to distrust that dream. You are not a fantasy. You are the truth she forgot she was allowed to hope for. And the moment her body realizes that, it leans forward, not because she is desperate, but because she is remembering what it feels like to be wanted without being used, to be seen without being judged, to be touched, not just with hands, but with presence. She remembers how it feels to dance in her own skin without shrinking, to speak her truth without scanning your face for permission. And it all begins with the way you do not flinch, with the way you meet her eyes without tension, with the way your silence wraps around her like a song her body already knows. Chosen one, the feminine is not scared of her own longing. She is scared of where it has led her in the past. She is scared of giving herself to men who cannot hold what she carries. But you hold it before she ever offers it. You hold her with your energy, with your discipline, with your unwavering refusal to betray yourself or her. And that, more than any words, is what makes her trust you, not just as a man, but as a mirror for her own sacred desires. You do not chase, you do not press, you do not manipulate, you witness. And in that witnessing, her shame dissolves, her pretending dies, her masks fall. Because you saw her, chosen one, before she believed she was worthy of being seen. You did not rescue her. You simply stood as proof that her inner world was never wrong. It was just waiting for a man who wouldn't make her feel crazy for feeling deeply. Now her trust blooms, her intuition rises, her body begins to speak again. Not in anxiety, but in certainty. Because in your presence, she no longer feels the need to protect herself from herself. She learns, once more, that her desire was never a mistake. It was a compass, and the moment it pointed to you, she knew. This is what I was searching for all along. Chosen one, there is a silence inside you that does not ask for validation. It is not hollow. It is not born from retreat. It is the stillness of a man who refuses to betray his own center, no matter who stands before him. And this, more than charm or wit or muscle, is what makes feminine women stare. Not in confusion, but in awe. Because in a world where men fragment themselves to be liked, you remain whole. You do not shrink to make her comfortable. You do not swell to make her impressed. You exist at full presence because you've made peace with your own storm. This self-trust you carry, chosen one, is sacred. It is ancient. It's the kind of masculine that does not compete because it has nothing to prove. It does not beg for love because it is already love expressed in motion. It is not afraid of being left because it does not leave itself. You have built an inner fortress not out of walls, but out of discernment. You know who you are. And so, when the feminine comes toward you, whether in confusion or chaos or sacred fire, you do not flinch. You do not explain yourself. You do not demand that she become smaller to fit you. You let her come undone because you know who you are when she does. This is why she calls you the voice of reason, chosen one. Not because you give her the best advice, not because you correct her, but because you are a mirror that does not distort her reflection. You do not panic when her emotions rise. You do not silence her with shame. You do not interrupt her wildness with premature solutions. You witness, you remain, you stay. And in that staying, she finds herself. You don't need her to validate your masculinity. You don't need her praise to feel like a man, because the work was done before she ever arrived. You already claimed yourself. You've wept into your own hands. You've stood in your own absence. You've walked through your winters and bled through your awakening. And so now, she meets a man who does not ask to be mothered or rescued. She meets a man who has nothing left to prove, and it changes the way she breathes. The reason her energy changes around you is not because you demand it. It's because your integrity inspires it. Your groundedness calls her into her softness. Your boundaries make her feel safer than submission ever could. She does not become small in your presence. She becomes sovereign. Because you are the first man who never tried to own her freedom. You simply stood as someone who earned his own and gave her room to remember hers. And so, without a word, she begins to trust you. Not because you've said the perfect things, but because you've never once abandoned yourself for her affection. And that is how she knows you will never abandon her when she's at her most vulnerable. You hold yourself through your own storms, so she knows you can hold her through hers. That, chosen one, is a kind of power that even the wisest women struggle to describe. Because it cannot be spoken, it must be felt. And the moment she does, she never forgets it. Chosen one, there comes a moment, subtle and sacred, when a feminine woman no longer desires to be entertained, impressed, or persuaded. She only wants to be received, not as an image, not as an idea, but as a whole being, unedited. And when she meets your energy, something inside her knows she has found not just a man, but a sanctuary. A place where her depth won't be punished, a place where her light won't be feared, a place where she can unfold without being unraveled. You do not try to shape her into anything. You simply witness her with a depth so rare it feels holy. Not because you are trying to make her stay, but because you have made space for her soul to land. You do not ask for the polished version of her femininity. You invite the untamed one, the one she buried beneath years of pretending. And when you see her, truly see her, she finally returns to herself. Not because you made her feel beautiful, but because you made her feel real. Your sexual energy is not fast or reckless. It is not desperate or invasive. It is ancient and discerning. It honors timing. It honors emotion. It honors the sacred mystery of her becoming. And that reverence, chosen one, rewrites the way her body responds to masculine energy. You do not provoke her openness. You create the energetic conditions where it blossoms. And that is why she feels safe to trust again. For so long, she has been searching for this feeling. Not the high of lust or the comfort of companionship, but the safety of spiritual return. And in you she finds it. Not in your words, not even in your touch, but in the way your presence holds her past without judgment. In the way you do not flinch when she shows you her scars. In the way your breath remains steady even when her voice trembles. You are the man who listens beneath her words. You are the man who sees what she hides. You are the man who doesn't need to fix her, because you've never once seen her as broken. And so she begins to relax, not just her shoulders, but her identity. She does not feel the need to perform. She does not analyze every tone in your voice. She does not retreat after speaking her truth, because your energy says, you are allowed here. Your energy says, you don't have to be perfect to be precious. Your energy says, I will not abandon you when you reveal your whole self. This, chosen one, is what makes her desire you beyond the surface. This is what draws her soul, not just her body. It is not because you are a fantasy, it's because you are finally real. A man who meets her, not as an opponent or a consumer, but as a witness of her divinity. You do not steal her light. You remind her it's safe to shine. You are not the home she escapes to. You are the home she awakens in. And that awakening does not happen through seduction. It happens through safety, through reverence, through the way you never need her to be anything but what she is. And in that sacred reflection, she discovers who she was always meant to be. Chosen one, the most mysterious thing about your energy is that it never asks for recognition. Yet the feminine world bends around you with respect. Not because you forced it, not because you postured, but because you didn't move. You did not shift with the trend. You did not chase attention. You did not betray your integrity in pursuit of being liked. You became a fixed point in a universe of noise, and women, feminine women who've seen the chaos of unstable men, felt it immediately. You became a spiritual axis, a silent recalibration of their internal compass. And in your stillness, everything changed. The reason they call you the standard, the rock, the anchor, is because you are not available for the emotional turbulence of men who seek external power. You do not mirror the madness of the moment. You do not match the drama to win influence. You hold to something deeper, older, unchanging. You stand in your own masculine center with such complete conviction that even women who tried to hide their longing found themselves seen in your presence. Not because you searched for them, but because your gravity pulled their truth forward without asking. She begins to realize that your presence doesn't just make her feel safe, it makes her remember who she is. Not the watered-down, protected version of her, but the full-force, truth-telling, wild-hearted soul that's been waiting to be unlocked. Your masculine is not a cage, it's a sanctuary. She knows, without a word, that when she steps into your presence, she won't be judged for her tears. She won't be punished for her strength. She won't be feared for her depth. You will meet her there, not to tame her, but to see her clearly. And the feminine has been craving that mirror more than anything. This is the magic of your sexual energy. Chosen one, it is not manipulative. It is not reactive. It sets the tone, not by force, but by example. And the women around you don't even know they're changing until it's already happened. They become softer, not for you, but because you're safe enough for their softness to emerge. They become more honest, not to win you, but because your truth invites nothing less. And the more they orbit your field, the more they return to themselves through the echo of your unshakable self-trust.